2022 Interact and Teen BHEF City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Melina Rosen, and thank you all so much for showing up tonight. And thank you all at home for watching the broadcast. We are excited to get started.
Hello, my name is Sienna Wolf. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This forum is hosted by the BHHS Interact Club and Teen BHEF. So Interact is a club for young adults within Beverly Hills High School who join together to tackle the most important issues in our city. And Interact clubs are the high school equivalent of Rotary clubs within Rotary International, and the BHHS Interact Club is supported by the Beverly Hills Rotary Club. Teen BHEF is a volunteer organization of 7th through 12th graders in BHUSD whose purpose is to inspire students to make a difference in their community through service projects and fundraisers.
Hello, my name is Eli Oakham. Various members of our respective organizations will be asking the candidates questions which have been written by students with no adult aid. The students who will be moderating are Melina Rosen, Sarah Lepkowitz, Sienna Wolf, Manuela Torres, and myself.
Hello, I'm Sarah Lepkowitz. To ensure that this forum is efficient, we have a few rules. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement. Each candidate will then have 60 seconds to answer each question. After each round, we will offer 2 minutes total for any rebuttals. Since we want to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to voice their opinions, we have members from the Interact Club up here in the front keeping time. So they're going to be holding up a yellow paper when you have 30 seconds left, and then a red paper when your time is done. So we ask that you please stop talking at that point. Thank you.
Hello, I am Manuela Torres. If time allows, we will then be asking questions that have been submitted by the audience toward the end of the forum. Each candidate will have a 30-second closing statement at the end. The candidate in the leftmost seat will answer the first question first, then the candidate to their right will answer the second question first, and so on.
Without further ado, let's get started. So candidate Bagiri, will you please begin your opening statements? You have 2 minutes.
To make this fun, my name is Shiva Bagari. I'm going to do a little rap song for you. Don't let your rights be taken away by globalist psychos that want a payday. They thrive on power, money, and control. If you're not too careful, they'll take your soul. Globalists want to take over, so what do they plan? A bioweapon from Wuhan. Fauci's prediction came true because he already knew. Gates and the WHO are putting on a show. No, I'm not taking those vaccines, pushing it on us by those on our screens, trying to riddle us with fear so we do what we hear. You must get in line. No, thank you, I'm fine. People saying that they're woke. MK Ultra's what you soak. Mimicking the talking heads run by the top CIA and feds. Trying to divide us by race, color, and creed. These evil globalists planting the seed on movies, media, and even billboards. We're not going to give more power to the wicked overlords. My God doesn't want to kill, rob, and destroy. If you accept Jesus, you'll feel true joy. We're spreading the truth and dismantling the lies. This country's fed up and is going to rise. We're sick of the deep state pushing tyranny when all we want is freedom to be free. We are the true patriots and we're growing in size. Stand up, America. Keeping it is our prize. Thank you. I got one clap. Yes, I got 2.
Thank you. The next candidate, please, your opening statements.
Well, that's really something to follow. I'm Darion Beaujo. I've been endorsed by the Municipal League of Beverly Hills, and I'm very proud of that because they care about all areas of the city, and they also include renters as well as homeowners. I'm an attorney. I've been an advocate against overdevelopment for many years. And like most of the candidates, I am very much in favor of increasing security, improving schools, and those things. But how I differ is that I'm against overdevelopment. I don't like high rise. I like low rise, and I think that our city is so nice and people have wanted to move here because it is low rise and very comfortable to walk around in, especially the village. Other things I believe in are I'm for free or reduced cost internet. This is a project that was started by the city, but they only completed half of it, and they need to complete the other half. I am in favor of digging more water wells because we're only 20% independent on water, and we need to increase that. Where am I time-wise? 30? Okay. Where to fill in? Okay. I have stated all my views. I think a lot of politicians are, where you ask them a question and they can say this and that and you don't come up with an answer. I have set forth my specific views, especially on development projects, and they can be found at my website at darionbeaujo.net. Also, I have all my qualifications and what I've done for the city, including participating in a lot of community matters where we were trying to preserve the neighborhoods. Let's see. I guess I still have some time left. Nobody's flagging me down yet. I thought you were just going to ask me a lot of questions. Red. Oh, no. Okay. So anyway, I hope you'll consider giving me one of your votes, and I think I really am done now. Thank you.
Next candidate, please.
Hi. I'm Andy Licht. I'm a film producer, and I'm chairman of the Planning Commission. I can explain a little bit what the Planning Commission is in a few moments. I've lived in Beverly Hills since I was 7 years old, which you don't need to be a mathematician to know that was quite a while ago. I went to Hawthorne. I went to Beverly. My children went all through the schools, K through 12. I probably went to school with some of your parents. And after Beverly, I went to Berkeley. I was an econ major. And then I went to USC and got a graduate MFA in film production, and I became a film producer. When I left USC, I made a deal at Warner Brothers. I was 23 years old and had under contract to Warner Brothers, had an office on the lot, and from there I went on to make a number of motion pictures with some major stars. If you have ways to watch really old films, I'm sure you could see those. I've been endorsed by a number of the local entities, the Beverly Hills North Homeowners Association, the Police Officers Association, and a business group, and the local Democratic Club. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm here to listen to you guys and hear what you guys want. When I was your age, we used to come into Beverly Hills. We called it Beverly. You guys, I think, probably hang out mostly at South Beverly Drive. I want to make it better for you guys. Come to me. Tell me what could make it better. I've learned a lot being on commissions. I was on the Traffic and Parking Commission for 6 years and the Planning Commission, as I mentioned, for 6 years. The main thing I learned was listening to the residents and to the people. You guys are young. You have lots of good ideas. I love to hear them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
Hi, I'm Bob Wunderlich. I'm one of your current city council members, and I'm your immediate past mayor. I was mayor during this last year. Thank you for hosting this. And also, thank you also, a shout out to KBEV. My son was very involved with KBEV. My son, Matthew Wunderlich, was very involved with KBEV when he was here. I really always do enjoy having an opportunity to interact with the schools and to be here talking in front of school groups. Actually, I've done this other times, even outside of the election, because education really was such an important part of what I am today. I mean, it begins with my mom. My mom was a junior high school teacher in the New York City public school system. Then my sister and I both went through the public schools in New York. A lot of us, and maybe for the people here at some point in your life, you will have experienced this also. There's a person in your life who, other than your parents, has been most instrumental in shaping who you are. And for many of us, it is one of our teachers. And for me, it was Mr. Urasitz. Mr. Urasitz was my math teacher in high school. He was so devoted to us that he followed us year to year. So I actually had him for 4 years. What was life-changing for me was that the electricians union gave me, my sister also, a scholarship to Columbia. And that really was a life-changing event for me. From there, I continued. I liked going to school. I went on to Harvard. I got a PhD in chemical physics from Harvard. I worked as a scientist for 10 years. Went back to school. School, again, was instrumental in me changing my path in life. I went and I got a MBA from UCLA with an emphasis in finance, and I've been an economist now for the last 30 or so years. I also love teaching. So I taught back at Harvard. I taught 3 semester-length classes at UCLA for the incoming MBA students. I've taught continuing education classes. I even taught the Stanley Kaplan classes just because I enjoy teaching. And so education really has been such an important part of my life. Also, and I'll wrap, also because education in schools and where we send our kids is a part of community. And with community, that comes back to what we try to do on City Council. And so an interest in the community is very much what I put into my decision-making on City Council.
Thank you so much. Next candidate, your opening statements.
Thank you very much. So my name is Lester Friedman. I'm one of the 3 current sitting council members on City Council. And thank you to the Interact Club and to Teen BHEF for hosting this. My wife was president and chairperson of BHEF when our kids were going to school. I had 4 children that went through the Beverly Hills Unified School District process, and all of them got really good college placements. I think that your school is doing an excellent job in educating you and preparing you for the next step. I was a mayor during the first year of the pandemic. It was an experience that we all shared together. It was stressful, frightening, and we're really just coming out of it right now. We have to be prepared for what is going to be happening in the future. We as a council have unanimously supported public safety in our community. We are doing everything we can to make our community a safe community. Not only public safety in terms of police, which we are really in the forefront of doing, but also health safety with our nurse practitioner program. We're also doing a lot in terms of economic stability. Our city is very well posed for the future in terms of what we as a council have done to make sure that economically we will be able to go forward in our community. So thank you very much, and it was an honor speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Next candidate.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah. My name is AB. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. I really, really appreciate it. My name is AB. I'm the father of 2 beautiful kids and a beautiful wife. My kids go to schools here in Beverly Hills. My main reason for running for City Council is primarily safety, crime, other important reasons like school system, how I wanted to have more and better coordination between the City Council and the schools, increasing homelessness in the city, which I see every day, and I don't think that our kids deserve to see that on the street. Apart from that, of course, I wanted to support small businesses and see what best we can do for them. But now, since we are sitting in a school, I would focus on talking about school system and our kids. I see that there's a lack of coordination between the city and schools. The material they give to the kids and the parents, like for example, it came to my attention that 2 days ago they were introducing sex education to 5th graders, and they were not giving any material to the parents, even though they were claiming that they mailed those material to the parents, but they didn't. I spoke to a few parents about that, and they never did that. So a lot of parents had to request that personally, and really force them to have the material handy with them. And the other thing is that I'm totally against introducing sex education to 5th graders, especially when it comes to LGBTQ, whatever it is, because I think this is not an appropriate age for them. I think we have to wait, we have to see and let the children learn on their own basis. And as a parents, it's our responsibility to teach them about social cause and these issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next candidate, your opening statements.
Hi, my name is Vera Markowitz. I've lived in the city for almost 50 years, quite a bit. My son went to Beverly, became a National Merit Scholar, and went on to be a physician, so all great. What I really want to focus on, and I think that you're hearing a lot about different issues. I'm going to pull a completely different one. The police department. So you all know that no one's safe today in Beverly Hills. And I'm sure your parents tell you, be careful, be careful, be careful because of what's going on. So I'm going to tell you that this council literally decimated the police department. They are not going to address it. Not one of them addresses 4 years of a very corrupt police chief. 50 of our best officers left, and today they're not able to recoup those. Here we are, we as a city as city residents really cannot help the police department unless we change this council. So this is a fact. On top of that, I started Just in Case BH, the emergency preparedness program. You're going to be getting a manual. Everyone's getting this manual. And this is the best program in the whole country for emergency safety. It was my program. I started with Chief Greg Barton, the fire chief. So I want to thank all of you for listening and learning and being part of the political process. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Shirona Nazarian. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. I want to thank Interact and the Beverly Hills Education Foundation for this gracious invitation. We need more focused and effective leadership. I'm accessible, creative, and innovative. I will bring a fresh perspective to City Council because I'm a problem solver who likes to get things done. I will listen, I will find solutions, and be your voice on City Council, regardless of how old you are. We want to increase safety and security. We want to do that by upgrading technology and working with our schools, our families, and our seniors. I will implement a residents-first approach in all our decisions, and I will also plan for the future of our great city because we want it to continue to be a place to thrive, to still keep that iconic name, but also be a place where you guys could all continue to live and have your families be able to live here as well. The number one job of elected officials is to keep their constituents safe. And I always ask, do you feel safe? So we need to be proactive, and we need to protect our youth and our community. That's extremely important to me. I'm a psychologist. I'm a public works commissioner for Beverly Hills. I'm a former Human Relations Commission chair. I am a LA County Commission commissioner for alcohol and other drugs, which makes me a unique candidate. I'm super energetic. I want to make a difference. I do my homework, and I will work very, very hard for you. As a mom of 3 sons, this is really why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I care for our future. I care for our city, and I think that communication is key. So together we could build a stronger, safer, and more unified Beverly Hills. I would be honored if you could give me one of your 3 votes. And you could visit my website, ShironaNazarian.com. We are doing a grassroots campaign. We have all of our young people coming on board, and I'm super excited about that. And, we want diversity of thought, not only in representation, but also through leadership and action. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Next candidate, your opening statements.
Hi there. I'm Robin Rowe, and my career is in solving problems. I am a technologist, a research scientist, but I actually started in television. I produced a documentary, a dance documentary when I was still in college, and that led to me getting a job as a technical director at NBC News. Then from there, I became a Navy research scientist, and I actually built crisis management systems that are national defense for this country. I had a system installed at NORAD that I was the program manager for. So I have much more experience than anyone combined on this panel in doing national defense. So if you really want to be safe, you might get someone who has some experience in that field. But moving on, the thing about the election, when I ran in 20, which is the first time I ran, it was one of the most expensive elections in the country. The winning candidates had spent $20 for every vote that they received, their campaigns. So I don't accept donations. I don't seek endorsements. There aren't people I owe favors to. And my name is Robin Rowe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next candidate.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Teen BHEF and thank everybody for sponsoring this here. My name's John Marish. I am a current council member, and I'm also a fourth-generation resident of Beverly Hills. I went to Hawthorne kindergarten through 8th grade, and I went to Beverly. And so if you want to hear about accomplishments, I'll give you the number of my mom. But I want to use this opportunity to wax nostalgic about being here because it means a lot to me. I'm a communitarian, which means that I believe in the value of community, and I think community is so special because of the unique ways in which we're connected. And Beverly Hills is a very unique community. For example, here today, I see Don Rosen, who I served on highlights with. We were both students of the legendary Gil Chesterton, who remains a source of great knowledge to me to this day. Nothing is ever written, it's rewritten. It's not funny, it's timely. These are things that I will always remember. And I can just rattle off a few other teachers at this school who still mean a lot to me, even if they're not all with us. Sal Occhipinni, Barbara O'Brien, Federico Dominguez, Bonnie Miller. These are lasting influences on me. And as was John Weckerly from Hawthorne, who had a sign on front of his desk that said, "Think for yourself." I recreated that sign. That's on my desk at City Hall. To me, that's one of the most important things I ever learned at Beverly Hills School District. Thinking for yourself. This is something we need to continue to do. Anyway, I'm proud of my record on the council. We did a lot of things. We created the Cultural Heritage Commission. We're the first city to ban the sale of tobacco. We were the first city to discuss the use of autonomous vehicles in public transportation. And there are a lot of things that I'd like to continue to do, including we're working on a preschool program with the Beverly Hills School District. I'd like to make preschool free for Beverly Hills residents and for city employees. I think that's an important thing, and also offer childcare. With that, I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your opening statements. We would also like to introduce Jake Manister and Howard Fisher, who are here today, and they are both running for treasurer. So they're in the audience. Yes.
Class of 69. There you go. Guitar, I went back to wait this way.
So thank you so much, and we are now going to get started on our questions. These are all student-created questions with no teacher or adult help. So our first question is, how can the city best use its resources to address and aid people dealing with homelessness, especially after the uptick caused by the pandemic? So we're going to start from the left and then move on, and you all have 2 minutes. 60 seconds. I'm sorry, that was wrong.
Okay. I got to be careful when I start. Okay. With our resources, we should be going to each one of these homeless people and educate them on the programs we already have, because we have a lot of programs. I don't think a lot of these homeless people know about them, and we should not ever allow anybody to be just sitting in front of businesses, because this is very, very hard for businesses, because people don't want to come into a business that has a homeless person sitting in front of it, and I see that happen all of the time.
Next candidate.
We really... Wait. Oh, okay. Yes, people say I don't speak loud enough or strong enough. So let me try to rectify that. I really think our city is doing so much better on homelessness than every other area I've seen around here. I mean, we don't have tents or anything like that, and people complain about it, but I hardly ever see anyone. Also, we have certain personnel that are devoted to this problem. I can't remember the departments, but I learned about it in Team Beverly Hills, embassy people, and this is the one subject the only subject I don't disagree with Shiva on what she said. But yes, I think that we do have people that reach out. I think that when the police are called, they are referred. They do get proper referrals. So we can always do better in anything, but I think we're doing very well.
Thank you so much. Next candidate.
So I think the city's doing a very good job. There's something called the Ambassador Program that I'm sure others will mention as well. You've probably seen these people walking around, mostly, I think, primarily in the Triangle, and they approach homeless people and work with them and try to help them. I think we need to continue that. We also it's a regional problem. It's obviously not just Beverly Hills, not just Santa Monica. It's everywhere around. We need to work with our surrounding cities and work together. The county gets very involved with homeless issues as well, but they have two different departments. They have a department that works with people who have mental health issues and addiction issues, and then they have a department that deals with homeless people. I think those two departments need to work together, and I think working regionally and working with the county will help the problem even further.
Next candidate.
So I'm at an advantage here because I'm the first one of the 3 city council members to speak about this. So I know what we've put in place over the last 5 years. Homelessness is a horrific problem, but it is much less of a problem in Beverly Hills. Just go outside our surroundings. There are no tent cities in Beverly Hills, and that's because of the resources that we've made available. Many cities have laws against no camping overnight. You cannot enforce those laws unless you can offer a shelter bed to everyone who'll take one. And because of our resources, we can and do that. Also on staff, we have the ambassadors. We also have social workers on staff as well as social workers on contract. They're our first line in reaching out to the unhoused in the city, letting them know about the resources that we have available. Mental health is also a very important part of dealing with the homeless crisis. I'm the incoming chair of the West Side Cities Council of Governments, which also includes Santa Monica, Culver City, and West Hollywood. I got to set 2 priorities for the next year. One of those 2 priorities is regional mental health to address the unhoused.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Thank you. And as Bob said, we as a city have done a lot in terms of dealing with the homelessness crisis. Homelessness is primarily a mental health issue. Yes, it is also an economic issue, but primarily it's a mental health issue. And I think that our city has done very well with our ambassador program. We will go up to a person who's homeless, and if they need assistance and are willing to take it, we have a place for them to go in the evening. We have places every evening. We've reserved spots at a shelter so that a person can go into that shelter. But we can do better. We always can do better. But as Bob also said, look at our city. We don't have encampments. You can tell exactly when you're coming from Los Angeles to Beverly Hills because the encampments are on the Los Angeles side. And some of the homeless already know that, and they stay on the Los Angeles side because they don't want to be confronted by an ambassador who will ask them and help them if they need it.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Yeah. I think, yes, homelessness is a big problem here, especially in our city. I know it's not as bad as other Los Angeles and other surrounding cities, but it is getting worse. Now, I'll give you an example. The other day, my wife and my kids went to Starbucks on Beverly, and this homeless lady came in, and she started taking a shower and started getting naked. So this is... And I think my kids and none of you guys deserve to see this. And I feel that, yes, it is a mental problem, but I strongly feel maybe 50%. 50% issue is still by choice. I spoke to a lot of homeless people. They just don't want to listen to anyone, you know. So we need to figure out a way where we can help them if they need help, but remaining the bad apples, we have to take them out somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Hi. So one of the best books to read on homelessness is San Francisco. San Francisco is a book about homelessness around the world and what's been done around the world. And the best place in the world is Amsterdam. And we have to be much more proactive here because us not treating the homeless costs us way more than actually being much more proactive. Either they have mental health issues or they have issues with drugs. So anyways, read the book. I'm just going to leave it at that. I saw my 30 seconds coming up. But there's a lot of things that we can do, but we have to be much more proactive in doing it.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Yeah, so I agree. You know, we have ordinances in place. As a Human Relations Commissioner, I think that's wonderful. Former Human Relations Commissioner, that we were able to provide services for our homeless. I think it's extremely important. Right now, as many have said, I'm also working with LA County in ways to assist our homeless, because a lot of times people just push them into another city and move them all around. And what we want to do is find the services that are going to be able to help them get off the street. The way to do that is, as many said, they either have substance abuse issues or mentally ill. The mentally ill homeless people like to come to Beverly Hills because it's a safe space for them. We don't abuse our homeless like many other cities might. And so we need to find beds and I think programs. It's important to help them find programs, whether it's through our nurse practitioner program or teaching our ambassadors to do a better job to really be able to foster relationships with them so that we can help them get off the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Okay, so they're the unhoused, they're not the homeless, they're not derelicts, and even calling them mentally ill is prejudicial. The issue here is that 60% of them were put in this circumstance through bankruptcy, through healthcare costs. Whether they themselves were sick or they had a spouse or family member, this is how they came to be here. 20% of them are veterans. Now, veterans should be totally cared for under the VA system, but it doesn't actually work out that way. And it's more than I can answer in 60 seconds, but confronting them with ambassadors is not the way to deal with the unhoused.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Well, I disagree with that. When our ambassador program has actually won an award at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, it is not something that is an attempt to intimidate people, but it's an outreach program that attempts to provide people with the help that they need. We also work with organizations that are specialized with this and provide them with funding, including PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, Step Up on Second. Sometimes it requires multiple contacts with a homeless person in order to convince them that they will be safe to get the help that they need. And it is indeed a regional issue, but we do devote substantial resources to it, and we will continue to do so.
Thank you so much for all of your answers. We're going to move on to our second question, which is, a recent LA Times article addressed the drastic increase in cameras in Beverly Hills, resulting in a total of over 2,000 cameras citywide, which is one camera for every 17 people. Do you agree with the City Council's decision to sign off on this, or do you believe that this is an unnecessary invasion of privacy? We'll begin with candidate number 2.
Oh, 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I see. Yes, I really like the cameras. I think we should have more because we are a target, because crime is up nationwide, and we have high-end stores, and we have wealthy people and people who are being followed home. And I'm all in. It could violate somebody's privacy, but most of us don't do anything that we need to be afraid of having it on camera. And so I would say more cameras, more monitoring the cameras, and that's why we catch a lot of people who do crimes in Beverly Hills, because we have cameras at intersections and everything, and they can get people's license plates, and we catch a lot of thieves and criminals. Thank you.
Next candidate.
I'm in favor of the cameras. I'm no lawyer. The lawyers can correct me, but I believe you have no right to privacy when you're in public. But a lot of the cameras are low def, difficult to read. I think we should upgrade the recording system to make sure they're all high def. And also, cameras are very helpful in catching criminals and others after the fact. I think we also need to focus on preventing crime. So, yeah, the cameras are helpful, but I think there needs to be more.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Well, I voted for and provided the funding for the cameras, so I am in favor of them. And I think they do make us safer. that is the means by which we do catch a lot of the people that commit crimes. As Andy said, the cameras are focused on public space, so there actually is not a right to privacy in public space. There shouldn't be an expectation of privacy in public space. And in addition, we are increasingly getting proactive with them. We're going to real-time monitoring of the cameras, but even then we have 2,000 cameras, and so people can never possibly monitor all 2,000. So we're increasingly using artificial intelligence to monitor. And that is not including facial recognition. That is looking for patterns of behavior. For example, if a car circles a block 3 times at 3 a.m. in the morning, that has nothing to do with the individual driving the car. That's a pattern of suspicious behavior. And that increasingly we will have to do things like that in order to be able to prevent crimes before they happen. I'm glad the cameras are here. I think most people in Beverly Hills agree with me.
Thank you. Next candidate, your answer.
As part of a unanimous city council, I also was in favor of the cameras, the 2,000 cameras, and additional funding for additional cameras. They are not focused on anybody's private home at all. They are on the public streets. We are talking about putting cameras in the alleyways, which are also not focused on anybody's home. We've always said that what we want is to deter crime. People who commit crimes in Beverly Hills are getting caught. They're getting caught in part because we have those surveillance cameras. If somebody comes to Beverly Hills and wants to commit a crime, they are going to get caught. And part of it is the fact that we have as many cameras as we do have.
Thank you. Next candidate, your answer.
Yes, I'm in favor of having cameras. In fact, I would advocate for more cameras. But I feel that they don't immediately help the crime to occur. For that, we need more police patrolling. But of course, I'm in favor of cameras, yeah.
Next candidate.
So for me, I also support the cameras. I've been in the police department, and I'm supposed to be there tonight. I'm part of the Citizens Academy. But what I'm saying is the cameras are not a deterrent at all. What they do is they catch the criminals afterwards, hopefully. Not always, but hopefully. The crime on that they broke in at Beverly Drive, they had false license plates, they had masks on, it was a very difficult thing to catch them. So those kind of problems, we have to realize cameras are not the answer to everything, but it's only a step. And it's a step afterwards, not before.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So I think that our city is being targeted as far as crime is concerned. Crime is up everywhere, but Beverly Hills specifically. So anything that we could do to utilize technology to enhance our services is better. It's shocking to me that we had all of these cameras in place, yet nobody was monitoring them until we started to talk about it. And now I'm really happy that we are starting to look at that, but I think it's really part of, we have ideas, we vote on them, but what is really being done to serve the community? This is really important to have, utilize the technology to be able to be proactive and to view crime prior to it happening, to be able to see, like Councilmember Wunderlich said, if you do see patterns, that we be able to recognize that. I've also been door knocking a lot, and one of the things that I hear a lot of residents speaking about is having cameras in the alleyways as well. They think that would really help in mitigating crime. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So 20 years ago or more, I worked for DARPA when this technology was developed. The technology has progressed to the point that Beverly Hills now owns the most sophisticated military technology for monitoring people in the world. I think we have better than China in our surveillance capabilities. It knows where each of you live. It can follow you home by camera. Not that it would ever be intended to be used that way, but I asked the question in the technology committee of what happens if this becomes abused? And the answer I received was that the city had already talked to the city attorney, and there's no way that anyone can sue us. There you go.
Thank you. Next answer.
So as a council member, along with Les and Bob, I also voted for the cameras. I think they're a useful tool. They are in the public right-of-way where people do not have an expectation of privacy. We're not directing them into your backyards as opposed to, say, spy satellites that can look in your backyard. As we heard, we're doing active monitoring now, or trying to, through the use of AI, which is just becoming a tool more and more available. So that will turn the cameras into more than just a forensic tool. But catching criminals, yes, is a deterrent. I supported body cams for our police, body-worn cameras for our police. And we have to remember that cameras capture the behavior of everyone, including the police. So the cameras are a useful tool, and I support them.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I don't support putting more cameras in because I was just at a city council meeting 2 weeks ago where a guy got his bike stolen in front of a camera. Both times, apparently, the camera wasn't working. So it doesn't seem to be working when it should be helping the public. And then I went to a candidate forum, I think it was a week ago, where they were talking about using the cameras to give you citations. So I think they're using this to basically take away our rights and give us the illusion that it's for our safety. And that's usually how they do it. Sounds like, okay. So it's an illusion. Watch 1984 George Orwell, because we're literally headed to Big Brother.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next question is, do you plan to enforce any traffic regulations to ease traffic congestion? If so, what regulations? And we will be starting with candidate number 3.
I spent 6 years on the Traffic and Parking Commission, 1 year as chair. I spent a lot of time going around the city with the city engineer who's in charge of all making a lot of those decisions. We created a lot of changes in town, different parking regulations, putting up bollards, the little posts in the middle of the street to help solve traffic issues. So I'm all in favor of making little changes around town. Again, I need people to come to me and tell me, there's an issue on my street, there's parking problems, there's traffic problems. We can find solutions, especially working with the engineer.
Thank you so much. Next candidate.
I'm one of the champions in the city of safe streets, and safe streets mean safe against traffic as well. I was the originator of the Slow Streets program here in the city. Things that we can do to improve our safety does include additional enforcement, but enforcement is always going to have limitations. There's many demands on our police. They cannot be every place at once. I have asked the chief to include additional traffic enforcement, and that will happen, but we also have to fight crime, and so there's going to be limits on enforcement. One thing that we also can do and are increasingly doing is designing our streets so that the streets themselves inhibit speed, so that you're not dependent upon people themselves either deciding not to speed or on traffic enforcement. But in order to have communities where we feel safe letting our kids walk out on our streets also have to be safe for walking, for bicyclists, and for other cars. And so traffic safety is an important part of who we should be as a community.
Thank you so much. Next candidate.
Thank you. So, traffic regulations really need to come from the individual, and we need to respect everybody else's rights, and we have to respect our own rights. One of the things that we can do on our side streets are, if the residents in a community want to have speed humps, those little bumps, they can petition for it, and a street can get the speed humps as long as 60% of the residents on that block want it, and the 2 adjacent properties to the speed humps do not object to it. So that is one way to enforce speed regulations. Yes, more enforcement is necessary. I know on Beverly Drive, people are making U-turns in the middle of the street, and we do have directed enforcement on occasion there. But as Bob said, or I think it was Bob, the police can't be everywhere. They have to prioritize what they need to do, and we are getting more police officers, and we will have more traffic regulations once they are hired.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Well, traffic is not my main focus right now. As I said, my main focus is crime and safety and homelessness and all that. But again, yes, I know this is an important thing, and I'm willing to work with City Council and willing to debate in person or in public forums to see what best we can do for the city. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So a number of years ago, actually 5 years ago, the traffic division was separate from the police department. It was a fabulous department. They wrote about 9,000 tickets a month. Now they're writing less than 3,000 because it has been, as I said before, the police department is decimated. The people who are working traffic are not as active and can't even give out the amount of tickets that they should. And everyone always complains there aren't enough traffic people out there. They're correct. They are correct. They aren't, and we have to change the department and make it better so all of us can work together and have a better police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So one of my goals and vision for Beverly Hills is to improve our quality of life, and that's to be able to shop, dine, walk, and have mobility in our beautiful city. So the feedback that I'm getting differs from different areas in the city, and I think it's really important to have proper communication. For example, there's certain areas that they were doing that drag racing type thing of the circles, and then there's other areas where they're trying to avoid traffic on Wilshire, so they're turning into the residential neighborhoods. So I think it's really important for us to be able to focus on the different areas of the neighborhood and get feedback from the residents to see what's important for various areas. I also think that it's important to have more traffic enforcement and maybe lower speed limits in our residential areas. I remember when I was younger, I've been living here for over 30 years, and when we were driving in Beverly Hills, we would slow down so fast and we would stop at every single stop sign because we knew that we would end up getting a ticket if we rolled through it. So we want to enhance that safety again. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Okay, so what does Robin Rowe think? Well, I actually worked on the traffic control system that is used in the city. The traffic lights on Little Santa Monica, the company that built the software for that, I worked for them for a while. And the Department of Transportation has something called Vision Zero, which is an AI program to create a future where there are no traffic fatalities at all. And it's a technology solution. We have the most advanced surveillance system in the world, and yet our traffic control system doesn't have the same enthusiasm. So I would focus more there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Could I ask, was the focus of the question on alleviating traffic, or was it more on traffic safety?
It's more of alleviating traffic.
That's what I thought. Okay. So about 6 years ago, we proposed a system of a transit system throughout the city using autonomous vehicles, which would provide connectivity to the subway stations, what's known as first last mile transit. But it would also allow people to leave cars at home. And the idea is to provide on-demand point-to-point mobility. Now, it's still, that kind of technology still maybe a couple of years away. But right now, there is a committee working on taking that idea and doing it with actually drivers first. We can then transition to autonomous vehicles when the technology is there. So we shouldn't wait. We should have fixed routes, a number of fixed routes throughout the city and the Triangle, also allowing people to go to school, get to and from school. We were discussing that specifically, also with an element of on-demand point-to-point connectivity. So that to me is it's time for us to move forward with that, especially since the subway is going to be opening in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I think a way to alleviate traffic is first the children going to school. Maybe we could have more people like the ambassadors on corners so that the children feel secure with walking to school. Every block has an ambassador so that it kind of lets the children walk to school without the parents. That would get people off the road. I'm not talking about really young children, but like 10 and up. I know my child walks to school, but I would like her to be more safe with having ambassadors. Also, we need to get rid of this wokeness in our police department when he's saying that he's concerned about hiring more women when it should just be merit. It shouldn't be about hiring more women. Then we'll get more people to help us with the traffic because we'll have more people on the beat.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I actually heard that question as different, that it almost sounded like what almost traffic violations we would want to enforce. But, and my answer to that would have been, we would need more police, we would need cameras, and I understand we cannot have cameras at stop signs. When it comes to alleviating or reducing traffic, I know that the Southwest had come up with some kind of a plan, but it was rejected by the city council because they were getting a lot of traffic. And I think that what we'd have to do is, we have commissions, I think, a commission that deals with traffic. And I think what would be required would be some kind of a meeting and a plan to see if we could come up with something. But as I sit here, I don't have the solution. Thank you.
Hi. So our next question is, do you plan on making Beverly Hills more accessible to lower income families, such as making stores and homes more affordable? And then we will start with candidate number 4.
Well, we do have plans to provide additional affordable housing in the city. It was during my time as mayor that we set up an ad hoc so that we can, and we did go out for proposals from affordable housing developers to consider what developments, affordable housing developments, they would put in on city-owned land. And those developments, that information is coming back now. But really the highest priority there, I believe, is to apply it to, Beverly Hills is not uniformly wealthy. And so the highest priority there is to make that available for the residents in Beverly Hills to take advantage of the affordable housing in Beverly Hills. And that would be for our seniors who can age in place. That would be for families who have some family members with disabilities, maybe adults with disabilities, so that they can take advantage of the affordable housing. And so that would be my highest priority for affordable housing in the city. You also asked about stores. So I'm not sure what we could do in terms of, we don't control the stores, so I'm not sure what we could do about having commercial establishments that would be targeting people of lower income.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Thank you. So one of the things this council has done is pass a mixed-use ordinance, and the mixed-use ordinance will allow housing to be built and make it available. One of the things that we need to do in order to make the housing available is there really needs to be smaller units than what our code now requires in terms of size. Land is very expensive in Beverly Hills. No matter where you look in Beverly Hills, it's expensive to have the land. And once the land is expensive, then building that lower cost housing automatically becomes more expensive. So if you can put more units on a piece of land, then you can bring down the cost of the housing. There is a study going on right now in terms of an area where the city can participate and donate the land and then have a builder come in and build the lower income housing. So that's something that is being done right now, and the study I think is going to be ready within the next month or two for us to review as a council.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I don't think so. We should be focusing more on this, getting people from outside. We should be focusing, helping the resident in Beverly Hills, especially living on the south side, where they are mostly living in rented homes with small families. So I think if we have some plans like that, affordable housing, the resident of Beverly Hills should be benefited first. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So I'm also a big proponent of mixed use. Mixed use, I don't know if anyone, or certainly I don't know if the kids know about it. So it would be a store at the bottom, and over the store would be 2 or 3 extra homes where people could live, and that reduces major costs. So you're already looking at a different way of use. We don't have a lot of that in Beverly Hills, and it's done in many places. This is not a new idea. It's just an idea that the time has come for Beverly Hills. Thank you so much.
So as a former president for the Rotary Club of Beverly Hills, we were able to really deal with different demographic of Beverly Hills that people aren't aware of. And again, as Bob mentioned, we have a lot of families who live under the poverty line in Beverly Hills, and we really need to be mindful of that as a community. I've been going door to door, and there's certain areas that it's just people, what they have, the impression that they have in their mind versus the reality of what exists is really different in certain pockets of our neighborhoods. And so I think that it's important for us to have a fair perspective, because we want to be able to create affordable housing in certain areas that may lend themselves to that. We have the metro coming in, and we could create a village of some sort that maybe we could have a little bit of a higher density in those areas that are on the outskirts of town that will also be able to lend themselves to affordable housing. But we also have to really be fair and balanced when we make these decisions, because we want to be balanced not only for the tenants, but for the landlords as well, so that they are able to support these type of projects.
So Beverly Hills has been studying how to provide affordable housing for at least a decade. In that time, I believe they've added 1 unit out of the 3,000 that the state has said that we should build. We had a forum in 20 when I ran, and my opponents said affordable housing over my dead body. So, when people say that we're just getting the study back and we're studying this, I think we might all be a little skeptical. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to say that mixed use and density does not necessarily mean lower rents. It can actually be the opposite. We could be here for 2 hours and I could have a long discussion on housing, because I spend an inordinate amount of my time discussing that. But we have to acknowledge that 50% of our residents are renters. We have instituted robust rent stabilization policies to protect the renters. We do not influence retail, but one thing we can do, which is known as land banking. City can purchase properties, and then we can have businesses there that we don't necessarily need to make a huge profit. Pioneer Hardware is an example. A commercial landlord would not have that in there because they'd want to make money. The other thing is, I mentioned, we can and should institute free preschool with the BHUSD and childcare for residents and city employees. That would be a really important measure, I think, to be family friendly and to support people who are not as well off.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I think this affordable housing is a total racket, and I think that we should fight Sacramento. I bust my ass to pay for my apartment, my little apartment. I think it's very unfair to say that somebody can just come and live here. It's Beverly Hills, for gosh sakes. The whole point of being in Beverly Hills is it's supposed to be prestigious, not just give people affordable housing. I literally been cleaning houses to pay my rent. So I really think it's wrong, and we should fight Sacramento, make an ordinance to go against this.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I think the way to provide affordable housing is through guest houses, particularly on top of garages, so we don't lose parking, and ADUs, and adaptive reuse of large buildings we already have, which are commercial and may not be renting so well, which already have enough parking. I'm not adverse to mixed use per se, but I would be very much against a mixed use building that was really tall or that did not have a lot of, sufficient parking, because that's what I'm against. I'd like to maintain a good quality of life in our city and the aesthetics, and I think tall buildings would not be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Thanks. So mixed use that a number of us have mentioned and are in favor of. I, too, am in favor of it. It actually originated on the Planning Commission that I'm a part of. We're big proponents of it. It's sort of basic economics. If the supply goes up, the price will go down. We're also required by the state to provide opportunity for developers to build a lot more houses, or housing units. Some people have mentioned it. It's almost 3,100. Mixed use gives the city a lot of opportunity to do that. I think the bigger buildings and the more affordable ones should probably be more towards the east side of the city, where the subway is going to stop on La Cienega and Wilshire. They call it transit-oriented housing, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And with that could come small stores and small restaurants, and bring young people into the city who couldn't otherwise afford it.
Thank you.
Hello. What steps would you take to make Beverly Hills a more environmentally friendly city? For example, what would you do to promote environmentally friendly cars in such a car-dependent community. And candidate 5, please.
Thank you. So one of the things that the city has been a leader in is sustainability. We passed an ordinance in terms of disposable utensils in our restaurants, that they can only be on demand. We have a program now, implemented a program that the state mandated, which is the recycling of food products, and we're going to be rolling that out too. So in terms of sustainability that way, that is what we've been doing. We also need to remember that our water resources are depleted right now, and we need to be careful in terms of using water. We right now have still a supply of water, but we have to be more judicious with that. Mulch is a great way to retain water and use those resources, not use the resources to an extent. So those are things that we are looking at, we are implementing, and we'll go to a much better sustainable society.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
Again, this is not my focus, but maybe the small contribution I can do is I can say we can incentivize people who buy electric cars from the city of Beverly Hills for the resident of Beverly Hills. So if that can help. Apart from that, this is really not my focus right now at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, your response, please.
So the city has a problem actually with recycling. I was in city council when the members of the waste management group came in and said that we are really not adequately recycling. That's a huge problem. And as you know, in your own homes, very few of you are actually recycling the way they do in other areas. So that's a huge environmental issue, and we should be dealing with that as well. Water is a huge problem. We have less than half a day supply, and that's because this council really did not deal with these problems. Now we're a little too late. Thank you.
Thank you.
So sustainability is absolutely the wave of the future, and it's extremely important. I sit on the climate adaptation committee for our city, and we're trying to aim for being carbon neutral by 2045, correct? I'm pretty sure that's right. I also think that it's really important for us to bring awareness to our community. For example, did you know that our Beverly Hills tap water is one of the finest drinking waters? And when you go to restaurants, you don't need to order all of the plastic or the glass bottled water. You could just order Beverly Hills' finest. In addition to that, the ban for the opt-in for plastic cutlery is actually something that I put on our agenda for the first meeting that I had as a Public Works Commissioner. I'm really proud to say that I asked for that to be agendized, and in January and November 2021, our council passed that. So now it's an ordinance that is passed in our city that you opt in when you order takeout food, instead of having all of those plastic cutleries come into our homes and then we just end up throwing them away. So it's action.
Okay, so the environment. There are two key issues here, in my opinion. One is air pollution, which really isn't addressed by anyone on the city council. I had one city councilor tell me that the air is the air and nothing can be done about it. The other is fire safety, which doesn't seem like an environmental issue, but is actually quite dire. So with regard to air pollution, the question is how to reduce commuting. I propose that we build a skyway that is an overhead tramway that moves people around Beverly Hills without cars. And I've also proposed that we build affordable housing for workers. 99% of our city workers commute here, and that causes a huge air pollution problem for us. And I'm not going to talk about fire safety now, except to say that we're in danger of burning down just like Paradise or Ojai. And this has been a problem that's been allowed to go on for a long time.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
Thank you. So I mentioned the transit system. That would obviously help. And we have a whole sustainability committee that is looking at things that we can do as a city. We are part of a Clean Power Alliance, which allows us to have energy that is renewable and electrification. And we've all heard about climate change, but the fact of the matter is all that we're doing is not enough. We need to step back and look at the bigger picture. We live in a world of finite and depleted resources, so the notion that economic growth can continue on forever is the very definition of unsustainability. So at last night's council, I talked about including in our general plan looking at the larger issues, the loss of biodiversity, something known as ecological overshoot, which means that the planet, we are extracting from the planet more than the planet can regenerate itself. We need to look at these things, and as said, reducing consumption is one way of doing so. We have to recognize that stability is an important part of sustainability, and I would urge all of us to look into the concept of homeostasis. It's a highfalutin word, but it basically means that we create an equilibrium among all things that allows us to continue and not to exploit and extract from the world and the planet more than it can give.
Thank you.
I actually made a video called The Beverly Hills Cheerleader Educates. So make sure you go to my campaign website, shiva4bhcc.com, to debunk some of the climate change hoax hysteria. What we really need to do is stop using this. I have a Berkey system. We should encourage people to get a Berkey system. You won't ever have to use plastic again. You can use our own water, stick it in the Berkey system, and get clean water that way. And it gets rid of 99% of the bacteria. And also, we've got to stop the chemtrailing of our skies. They are poisoning our skies, folks. These stripes in the skies are not normal, but our government is doing this. And if you want to think about all of these face masks that are everywhere and all the plastic we used on the lockdowns, I mean, that was just quite disgusting. I actually made a skirt out of them in my video of face masks.
I think the city should make it easier for people to re-landscape in a way that would not take up as much water, to also develop systems to help us reuse water, gray water. We would save a lot of water that way. I do think we should improve on recycling because right now we put garbage and greenery in one bin, which is nice. They make mulch out of it. She's saying no, I don't know why. I guess we'll hear eventually. And in the other one, we put our bottles and plastic and everything else with the trash. So there should be an improvement on recycling. I agree with that. Thank you.
So the city used to have residents separate trash and recycle in the blue and the black bins. You no longer need to do that. The garbage company, Waste Management, does that. So there's a lot of recycling in the city. On the Planning Commission, we approve projects, buildings. One thing that I've been very adamant about is encouraging the developers to make the buildings LEED buildings, which are environmentally friendly buildings. I also make all the builders, the developers who are building condominium or apartment buildings have electric vehicle charging stations. We're all going to have electric vehicles soon. Nobody's going to have a gas car anymore. Another thing I want to do is make it much easier to get solar panels on your house. Right now, there's a 2-month wait to get a permit. It should be a one-page form. You should be able to fill out this one page and get your solar panels installed on your house. I think that's very important. The last thing is there is a state law where you must recycle your food waste, your banana peels and those things. You can put them in the green cans with the garden waste, and I think people don't know that. And we need to educate people because that's another great way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am a leader, a leading advocate in the city for sustainability, and this isn't a recent conversion for me. Also, look at my lifestyle. I live the lifestyle that I advocate for. I think John and I are the only two candidates who actually are endorsed by an environmental group for our views on climate change and the environment. I was one of the leaders in the city joining the Clean Power Alliance, and now the default option in Beverly Hills, whether you know it or not, is that we all get our electricity from 100% renewable sources because of that. We spoke about water resources. The city has developed, when the plant is at full capacity, 25% local supply. That's from zero. That's a substantial change. You began the question by talking about, I think, environmentally friendly cars.
Yeah, that's an
What's the
example.
most environmentally friendly car? No car. And so I was the person, John spoke about this also, but I was the person who brought before City Council the concept of a transit system so that we could have first mile, last mile solutions for getting to Metro. And not everybody, people will always get around by cars for a long time. But what people should also be in favor of is additional options for mobility, so that for those people who do choose to get around without a car, the city shouldn't be making it more difficult for them to do it that way. The city should be making it easier for people who want to get around by walking and bicycling.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everyone that we do have a 2-minute total rebuttal time in case any candidate wants to respond to something that another candidate has said. So would anyone like to?
Okay, well, I'll take advantage as the first one. I think I ask you in the audience and people listening to do due diligence on some of the things that are being said, because some of the things that are being said just are wrong. Because as Andy said, the recycling is handled by our waste disposal company. So it's not true that we don't do recycling. You don't do it as individuals, but it's being done more efficiently by our waste disposal company. It's not true that we have a half day of water supply. We have much greater than a half day of water supply. And I'm forgetting the other, it's also not true. There's been so much stuff that I just asked you to do your fact checking about. How could we not have the support of the police when the police are supporting 2 of the people on City Council? So how can the police not think that we're doing a good job? And it can go on and on about the false information that's coming out here today.
May I rebuttal?
Sure.
Yes.
Do I get my 2 minutes?
It's
Thank you so
a
much.
2-minute total.
Yes. No. Oh, 2 minutes in total.
Yes.
I thought I'd get 2 minutes. Oh, so sorry. My mistake. Okay. So basically, I was endorsed by the police as well. And the reason these council people were endorsed by the police is because they're afraid that in case in an election they get chosen, that they have some backup. They know, and they are so alienated from this council because of what has happened. I want each of you to go and read it. Thank you. Let's do some research. Let's do the 4 years that you guys stood there while Spagnoli decimated this police department.
I welcome your research.
Please.
Okay. And if I may add something, yes, it's true that 2 of the sitting council members have been endorsed by the Police Officers Association, and 1 was not. But unanimously, our city council voted yesterday to enter into negotiations with our police department in terms of their salaries. So it is not an issue where the police officers are afraid of who's going to get elected and who's not going to get elected. That's just a falsity.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to...
They all are big talk, no action. Give me a
the-
vote.
as
I'll show
the-
the action.
Sorry, as the candidate who was not endorsed by the police, I want to explain why, because I have had a long-standing policy of not soliciting or accepting the endorsements of any unions that the city negotiates with. I feel it's a conflict of interest, so I wasn't even in the mix. I just want to clarify.
So do you honestly think you weren't endorsed because of the unions? I
Okay.
don't think so.
I didn't solicit the endorsement because it is a conflict of interest, Vera.
Well, we can get back to this. After we've asked all our questions,
I'm
we'll
sorry,
have extra time.
Wait, can I just have 10
I
seconds?
guess I'll add it when it comes
I
to
just have a question. I just have a quick question because
Okay, sorry.
Vera's said that there's half as many police. I'm wondering what that number is. I'm just asking for the number of how many police it should be.
Wait, what's the question?
Parent volunteers for TBHF, and we're just going to support the kids by saying, let's not do rebuttals now, and let's go back to our 2-minute questions, and then we can all do our own research.
Good idea.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not trying to rebut anyone. I would just like to have a number so I know what she meant. That's all I'm asking. What's
Okay,
the
we can
number?
ask a question about police after all of our planned questions are over. For our 6th question, what effect do you think the subway will have on the city, and how do you plan on addressing the effects that you mentioned? So candidate 6, please.
Mine is 4.
Oh. No, that's your chair.
So I feel subway might have adverse effect because I don't know how many of you guys have been traveling through subway system in Los Angeles. So we see what's going on. Now I see more crime happening unless we do something about it. I think personally, I would close the subway down at 7 o'clock, especially when it opens up by rodeo. It's just to ensure the safety of our citizen. Again, I said my main focus to run for this campaign is just a safety of our citizen, our resident, and my family and your family. And I don't have a campaign manager who's writing my script. I don't have 10 years of experience in city council. I can throw big words out. Everything which is coming through my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
So basically, I'm a firm believer that we should have police stations, 1 or 2 police in every subway stop. That it's only 2, and so we should have a security in every area and make sure that we have police that patrol on top of the subways. So inside and on top, so that it deters any crimes happening. We have to do that.
So the metro's coming, as we all know, and we want to make sure that people know that we welcome you to Beverly Hills and we have open arms. However, we will not tolerate criminal activity. So I am also in support of having police substations at both metro stops. The hours are controlled. The Metro board, which consisted of 30 individuals, unanimously said that they did not want to support policing at the metros. Meanwhile, a woman was raped during on the subway. So it's extremely important, in my opinion, that we protect our community and our residents, because the metro is important. It's important for everything that we spoke about protecting our environment and the climate change that's happening. However, it is also going to be a gateway, and we need to be sure to protect our children, our residents, and our community by having proper policing in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
So we have 4 more police officers this week than we did last week. Do we all feel safe now? How many do we need? The number is now 136. Manhattan Beach, which has the same population, has 55. If we want to double them to 300, I don't know where we're going with this. The reason I've been so insistent on asking people for numbers is they're giving percentages, and I'm not sure what the percentages of. So $10 million, $20 million extra in police force. No one says how they're going to pay for it. You know, it's going to come out of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've heard concern about crime. The fact of police substations is something the council has planned from the very beginning. The council is unified on that. We're not going to compromise on safety. That's part of our MOU, our Memorandum of Understanding with Metro. But let's not forget that the subway is also a great opportunity for us to leave our cars at home and to be mobile. That's why we need to solve the first and last mile challenge and have that connectivity. But there are going to be great options for visitors and for residents alike to use the system and the transit system in all sorts of ways. And so I'm looking forward to that. And of course, as said, we are going to make it a priority to make sure that there are no downsides.
Thank you.
Let's be real. How many people want to be on the metro with all of the crime? I mean, this is what people are not even talking about. I mean, well, maybe you guys, okay. Well, my friend just got assaulted by a homeless person on a bus. So you think that's not going to happen on the metro? A lot of us didn't even want the metro to be here, period. We knew that the crime was going to go up exponentially, and we're going to have a lot more officers now. But again, we as a city, I talk to people all the time, and not a single person that I met around the city wanted the metro to come here. We were so against it, and nobody listened. The city council didn't listen because they're doing what they're basically the people they're in bed with want them to do.
Thank you. I just want to remind the remaining candidates that we are also interested in learning about what you plan to do to combat the effects that you mentioned.
Officers, basically. Okay. And the security, one thing we need to do is get rid of the security, because security people cannot arrest. Only police officers can arrest. So the security is like
you had your
nonsense.
Time. Okay.
All right. So whether it would be by foot patrol and additional officers or a substation, we just need to increase the security, and not private security, but actual police officers near the substations. I mean, near the metro stations. And I still have some time, so I want to say that we could recycle better if we didn't rely on someone else who has to pick apart everything. I don't think that that's as good recycling. And additionally, I agree with what Vera and John said about the police endorsements. And I'm going to address that in my next flyer about the problem with some of these endorsements and how there's a conflict of interest, which should be considered in almost all of the endorsements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to correct one thing that was said, I don't believe it's the city that decided that Metro was coming here. It's Metro decided that Metro is coming here, and that's a county agency. The city had to work with them, but it is not a city decision. So what would we do? Everybody's mentioned the substation, which the city council has been on top of. I think that's a great idea. I think another idea might be to have 1 or 2 officers on a train riding back and forth between the stations in Beverly Hills. I think people would feel safe if they saw officers present all the time. I represented Beverly Hills on the station committee for Metro. I learned a lot about the stations. We helped pick the art. We helped decide a lot of things about the station, and I think it's a great idea. I will definitely be a rider of the subway. I love the idea of being able to go downtown in 22 minutes and be able to do emails and read as opposed to fighting traffic.
Thank you.
Metro presents both opportunities and challenges. People don't like traffic, but if you can reduce traffic on the margin, it actually reduces congestion for us all. We're a pass-through city. Many people work in Century City. That'll be increasing again as we get further away from the pandemic. Think about all the workers in the city itself who have to come long distances to come here. If a fraction of those people do, and a fraction of those people will use the Metro, that will improve the roads for all the rest of us. In addition, John already addressed this, but it's an aspect of reducing climate change emissions to the extent people use Metro. It's also a fact, though, that especially following as we come out of the pandemic, crime is up in Metro systems around the country. It's hard to know exactly why, but that is true. So even before that was happening, we were aware of the security needs with the Metro. We now are, that's just being emphasized, how much there are going to be security concerns with the Metro. People have spoken about the substations that we're going to be putting in place to be able to deal with that situation.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we did and will become evident is that when the subway station opens, the policing of the substation will be with Beverly Hills Police if the county does not have a single source policing the entire route. If they do have that, then we have written into the memorandum of understanding that the policing will be at the same level that Beverly Hills expects and does in its residents. So that's something that we've already done. Another thing that we've done is that the trains will not stop or permanently park at the terminus station either in La Cienega or in Rodeo. They will go back downtown. Why is that? So that people who are homeless and decide they want to stay on the train will not be in Beverly Hills. So that's another way that we are making Beverly Hills safer. The substation we've already talked about, that's been on the plans. We have a location picked out for it. Hopefully we can get that done as soon as the property is turned over to us.
Thank you. We're going to do another rebuttal, like 2 minutes, so this is like a strict 2-minute deadline. Limit. So please balance out your time. Thank you. Anyone like to begin?
Well, I think people are going to change their mind about being on the Metro when they find out how dangerous it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Can I have 10 seconds?
Sure.
So, because it's relevant to you guys, $16 million of your school construction funds was diverted, some say illegally, into fruitless lawsuits to try to block the Metro. So it's cost your schools a lot to try to delay the Metro construction.
Okay, thank you. We'll be moving on to the next question.
Hello. So for the last prepared question, how do we encourage the growth of small businesses around Beverly Hills and ensure their success, especially with rising rent? And we'll be starting with candidate 7.
Hi. So that's a very good question. There are some programs that the City Council actually has implemented, and trying to encourage a new business. We need new business. We have a tendency to have, and it's not really anyone's fault. It's just that the rents are so expensive. We have to see if we can lower some of their rents and make it more feasible for them to come in and encourage big business. You know, there's a lot of the stores along Wilshire, if you go, are empty. So we have to see what we can do to encourage them.
So as a result of COVID, a lot of businesses were really impacted. And it's really important to start bringing in businesses by giving them incentives, whether it be to expedite the process for permits or the amount of time that it takes for them to be able to be a part of it. What I'm more concerned about is finding businesses that are more appropriate for our community. We want to be able to find businesses that when our kids are done, what else is there for them to do? We want to encourage young families to move to Beverly Hills. And how are we going to do that? A lot of the kids, after they're done with school, they go to Rite Aid or they go to South Beverly, but even there isn't that much to do. So I want to encourage finding solutions and finding programs and finding businesses that are going to be relevant for our young people. And I also think that we could do discount cards. We could do discount cards for our seniors, and we could also do student discount cards. I remember when I was younger, we used to be able to go to places, and certain days of the week, they would have 10% off or whatever. And I think that would be a really cool way for the businesses to partner with our city to have different ideas to support the kids and our seniors.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Okay, so it really comes down to infrastructure to make us more attractive to business. There was an attempt to put in high-speed internet. It was found out just how difficult that is because commercial interests don't want high-speed internet to work at the city level because it eats into their business. And one of the council members up for re-election said in a meeting when I sat next to him, why not just have AT&T do it? Why do we need to even build this? So that's why we've kind of lost steam on doing the high-speed internet. Then with regards to transportation, Robertson has not had good transportation. I've said, let's build a skyway. There are businesses there that have been vacant for 10 years. This is not a new problem. The existing city council just hasn't dealt with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, I support municipal broadband, and I think we should bring back blue chip stamps. But I think one way that we can support small businesses is by, as I mentioned before, land banking. The city can purchase properties where the city doesn't need to make the same return on investment as a commercial landlord does. So we can have the small, unique, boutique-y kind of businesses that we like in our town. We could and should purchase property to do an incubator, again, city-owned, where maybe we could have a brand from Australia that wants to establish itself here, for example, and make it its U.S. base. Unique, one-of-a-kind, non-chain store kinds of things. I think we should be doing this in the southeast part of town. This is the part of town where I live. It's traditionally been sort of the redheaded stepchild of Beverly Hills, and there is a lot that we can do, especially to create a unique new identity in the southeast part of the town where we can have these kinds of small businesses.
Thank you. Next candidate, your response, please.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The reason why many businesses don't want to come here is because they're afraid of lockdowns. Lockdowns killed our businesses. People moved out of state to what's called open states, which you would have never thought would happen. There's an open state. So what we need to do as a council is make sure that we block those terrible mandates and never allow that government overreach again. It's like the Gestapo shaking down businesses saying, hey, if you don't, do what we do, wear the mask or wear the shield or, put your stuff outside, have this patio furniture, we're not going to support you and we're going to give you tickets. And that's what they did. We had Gestapo going around giving tickets for these businesses, which was ridiculous.
Thank you.
I think it might be a good incentive to reduce business taxes for new businesses, which would be, encourage them, and also to beautify some of the areas where they're likely to settle, say along Robertson or the southeast part of town with landscaping and things like that. And I think that right now at council meetings, they introduce new businesses. They try to bring a lot of public attention to various new businesses to try to get them business. And I think that's a good idea also.
Thank you. Next candidate.
This is entertaining. So, as I mentioned earlier, I want to encourage young people to move here and make it more affordable. The logical places are on the east side where the subway stop's going to be. I think if in these mixed-use buildings that we mentioned earlier, you'd have small cafes, coffee shops, types of businesses that are attractive to young people. So if we build buildings that young people come to, I think it will attract these types of businesses. I don't know if you guys have been in the Arts District downtown. There's an area that was dead 10 years ago. Now it's one of the hottest places in town. And it's because they built housing that encouraged young people to come. And now it's a really fun place to be. We need experiential businesses, art galleries. And one other thing is maybe in the southeast have a farmer's market. We have one on Sunday in the north side. If we had one on the southeast, maybe in the middle of the week, I think that would encourage business because it would bring a lot of people to the area.
The city actively does many things to retain existing businesses and to attract new ones. We have, in essence, task forces that are dedicated to that. We meet regularly with our existing businesses to find out what the city can do to help them. We target businesses that we think would be a good fit for Beverly Hills, and we reach out to them proactively to try to get them to open up locations here. We also do a variety of things and have done a variety of things during the last 5 years to support our businesses. We have business concierge services to help them through the permitting process. We had the Open BH program where we allowed use of our public spaces. We allowed rooftop dining. We reduced the parking requirements for restaurants and gyms. We bought space on Robertson to provide parking for the stores that are near that. Mixed use, as Andy mentioned, is also something that could be good for small businesses because the people who live in mixed use, it creates a micro economy and they patronize the stores near them. John also mentioned that the city is a significant landowner. And for those places that we do rent, if those are small businesses providing a particular need for our residents, like Pioneer Hardware or Beverly Hills Market, we have the opportunity and do charge less than market rent to meet the particular needs of our residents.
Thank you. Next candidate, please.
So one of the things that we do, and we do this in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, is that we go out and we seek businesses and ask the businesses to come to Beverly Hills. There is an annual trip that is made to New York where we will both go to companies that are in Beverly Hills so that they know that we are interested in keeping them there. So that's business retention, and we go after business attraction. We've also started going to San Francisco to show that we want businesses to come to Beverly Hills. So those are some of the things that we've done. Those trips have been successful. We have Shake Shack that's going to be opening on Santa Monica Boulevard. And by the way, I saw that they have a sign out that they're hiring if anybody needs a part-time job. John and Vinny's is going to be coming to Beverly Hills. So this is something that your council, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, has been doing. Yes, we as a city landowner can charge a lower rent, and that's what we do on Crescent for both the market there as well as a hardware store.
I think in the current situation, we can help businesses by first thing ensure them safety, because if you see there's a robbery daytime in the broad daylight on a Beverly on different streets, open broad daylight, people come smash and grab, rob the store, and there's nothing been done about it, and it's happening more and more. So no business can thrive unless we can ensure them safety. At this point, I feel businesses are leaving Beverly Hills, so I don't know how you're going to invite them. And so after we ensure safety to them, the most important thing I would do, try to help them by cut taxes. I also wanted to do something for the kids because I think my city lacks resources and businesses, which is kids and children-based businesses. So I would love to incentivize them if they can come here and give them some tax breaks or help them out in any ways I can do. But the most important thing is ensure them safety. I mean, unless they're safe, there's nothing going to happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now be transitioning to audience questions, and we'll be starting with candidate number 8. Question is, what are your plans to integrate the youth more into the city? For example, are you open to internships or shadowing of your position? Candidate 8. Yes.
I know how to count, I promise.
I'm 10.
I think that I've said this many times, the youth are our future, and they're the most important part of our community, and I think it's so important to foster positive relationships with them. I am absolutely for whether it's for them to shadow or to intern, 100% we could create programs like that. Through Rotary, we have programs like that. We have service days and ways that we encourage our young people to become a part of our community. We want to encourage them to continue to be members of Beverly Hills and to hopefully be able to live here and be smart and successful. And that's what I would thrive for.
Thank you. Next candidate, your response.
I'm a little surprised that we don't have interns already. I mean, this is a local city election. We're all very accessible. Our contact info is available on our websites. No one's reached out to me and said that they wanted to intern. I have interns that are master's and PhD students, but I don't have any high school students.
I'm sorry, I just want to, I had a couple of seconds left, but I actually have high school students that are interning for me for my campaign, which I'm very proud of. They're awesome, they're so smart, and they're so active, and it makes me so proud to have our students be a part of that. That's really, really exciting, and I want to encourage all of you, if you want to reach out to me, you could go on social media, go on Shirona 4, the number 4 BH, and join me.
Yeah. And I'm robinsrowe.com.
Thank you. Next candidate.
We do occasionally have interns, absolutely. There perhaps needs to be a program that is developed if there is an interest from the high school on making it more formal. We have something called Team Beverly Hills, which includes students from there's always a contingent of students, and there is a number of spaces reserved for students from the high school, which is a citizens academy, if you will, that teaches you all about the entire city. And so that is one thing that we have. But if there is an interest in shadowing, or getting more involved specifically in the government part of it, that would be something we could look at developing.
Thank you.
I think it's a great idea to get the kids more involved, especially know what is going on in the city. Perhaps have something where they can have their feedback, even though, they're not our constituents until they're 18, but still having your voice heard during meetings would be wonderful. So I definitely believe that we need to get you guys involved, for sure.
I think all of us think it would be a great idea. It is, and it would be probably fun. And some of the students might really have some good ideas and suggestions that we could run with. Thank you.
I love the idea. I taught at USC in the film school for 16 years. I helped all my students get internships. I had interns on all my productions, PAs. I'm still very involved in the USC Film School. I'm a mentor. I get a mentee every year. I think it would be a great idea to have a student city council person, just like we have a student board member. I think to get the input of a young person on council would be great. So I'm all for this and always have been.
What we're doing here today, and what you in particular are doing here today, is a great example of getting students involved. And let's say I have spoken with the school board, I have spoken with Superintendent Brager, and I have spoken with a variety of the PTA groups about additional ways that the city and the schools can collaborate. And these are some of the ideas that have come up, specifically to get kids involved with being interns for the various positions and the various commissions we have around the city. I think that's a great idea. To get KBEV more involved in covering some of the city events, covering perhaps city council meetings, or covering perhaps some of our commission meetings. Let's see, you have the career day at the schools. I've been involved with the career day for many years. Actually, I speak in two capacities there. I speak both as a government person, as an elected official, but also in my job as an economist. And so I do think, I think we're all going to agree, who's going to disagree, that it would be a great idea to increasingly get our students involved with our city.
Thank you.
So, when I became mayor, it was right as the pandemic was coming full force. Each mayor is allowed to have initiatives that they want to see accomplished during their year. And my theme that year was Beverly Hills Together. My goal was to integrate a lot of the things that the city does with the school district. We had in the past a tenuous arrangement with the school district, and it has moved to be so much better. Bob and I are both on the liaison with the schools, and I think that we've done a lot to bring that forward so that the schools are working very well together. Yes, we have in the past, and I believe we're going to have it again, have a day where students take on the roles of the different people in the city, not only city council, but the directors of the different departments. That's something that we have to do. Youth is our future, and we've got to get you guys involved.
Next candidate.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see more young people getting involved. And I want to see more and more, and that is the reason why even I'm running for city candidate, council. You see all my people who are running against me or with my other candidates. They are all like 60, 50 plus, and I'm the only candidate who's 39. So I'm just trying to get more involved in the city politics and try to help everyone. So the same way, I really want you guys to help out and get more involved. I think Shirona probably doesn't agree with me. Maybe she's kind of sorry about that. So except for few people, but most of them. So it's nice to see more people getting involved in young people involved in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So I started an internship program many years ago in my office. I always had Beverly students because our office was in Century City, and and my husband ran an orthopedic office. We had for 30 years, we had students from the high school, and many of them went on to either be physicians or in the medical field because we interned them. And I still do that even with politics, with everything I do. I try to have students with me so that they could be more educated. I think that's fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next audience question is, do you support free preschool? And if so, if it continued, would it be through the city or would it be through BHUSD? We are starting with candidate number 9.
I think that's me. It says 10.
Okay, well, you could be number 10 and number 9.
Okay, so I find it really interesting how ambitious so many of the candidates are, that they want to run our school system, they want to run our state legislature in Sacramento, that they have time for all of these other things that are not in their jurisdiction is just amazing to me. So I haven't given a lot of thought to preschool. I ran for the school board in the 20 election. If I had been elected to the school board, I would be very interested in this issue. But I think it's a little bit beyond the city council that is supposed to be taking care of city things, and we have the richest school district in the country here. Why do they need to go to the city council to get free preschool? It makes no sense.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Well, actually, the city does have its own preschool program, and the whole point is to connect it with the BHUSD so that there is a transition, so that friendships form between parents and children that start, and then the kids then transition to the preschool. So I think that it should be in conjunction with BHUSD, where we've seen declining enrollment. I think that it should be free for all residents and for city employees. If people outside of the district want to join the preschool, they should pay. And I think that is something that the city should fund for residents to provide it. So I do think this is absolutely within the scope of what we do. As said, in the past, we have had at La Cienega Park, at other places, city-sponsored preschool. It's a lot better to do it together and partner up with the BHUSD, and it would be a lot better to offer it for free. You want to talk about something that we would be able to offer that other cities don't. As some of you know, I've lived in Sweden for many years, and one of my Swedish friends said when he heard about this idea, it's clear that all those years in Sweden were not wasted on you. So,
Thank you. Next candidate.
I'm in support of it because I had to pay for my child to go to Good Shepherd, and it would have been nice to have a program like that for my kid. And I do know that the school system here is very good. I didn't like the masks on the children, but I did support the school system itself is pretty good, and the teachers are pretty good, except for the few Marxist ones that are in there.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I think it's a very nice idea. It's very appealing. Oh, it's very appealing. My only concern would be the cost, but we do want to attract young families here, and one way to do it would be, to say if you're a resident here, you could have free preschool. So my only concern is how we could support it financially. If we could find a way to do that, yes, it would be great. Thank you.
I too am in support of it. I went to preschool here, and transitioning to Hawthorne was easier because of that. I want to, as I've mentioned a number of times, encourage young people to move here. That certainly would encourage young families to move here. When I went to Beverly, there were 2,600 students here. There were 650 in my graduating class. I believe, you can tell me, but I believe it's about half that right now. And that's unfortunate. I don't want to see the schools die. We need to encourage young people and young families to move here, and this would certainly help it.
This actually going beyond preschool, the entire concept of the city excelling at early childhood education is an example of the fantastic collaboration that we're having with the schools right now. A lot of people are in favor of it now. It actually was during my year as mayor that we initiated those discussions because I was the one who brought it forward. Lester and I are the two liaisons for the city, so we've been the leaders in terms of taking the city's position of discussing it with the school board. We spoke about affordable housing. Housing is expensive in Beverly Hills for a good reason. It's a good place to live, but what's an offset to the cost of living here? To people already come here for our schools, but if we have an additional inducement for them to come here, that's an immediate offset to the cost of living here. So this entire concept is to get people coming for preschool, for daycare, to move them into the transitional K that the schools already offer, into the kindergarten, to have them integrated into the school system from the very beginning. Whether it should be free or subsidized, I think it's premature to say at this point because we don't really know what it would cost. We want this to be an attractive benefit, both for people living here and an enticement for people to move here. I do think to say whether it's going to be free or subsidized would have to scope out actually what it would cost.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So as many of you may know, the state mandated that the school district now be responsible for transitional kindergarten. Up to this point, both preschool and transitional kindergarten, it wasn't called that, were really the responsibility of the city. And now the school district is going to have to do that part of it. So that means that kids that are below 4 years, and I'm not exactly sure where the cutoff is going to be, are now going to be in a program that is funded by the city. We need to continue to work with the school district, and we are doing that now with early childhood education and preschool, so that the kids have a place on campus so that there is a transition, a natural transition from preschool to transitional kindergarten with the school district and on to the school district itself. I think that makes a lot of sense. Again, in terms of funding, I think that it's a good idea to have the free preschool. I think that it needs to be looked at, certainly only for residents and employees of the city if we do that.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Yeah, I do believe our city have enough funds for free preschool, and I totally support that as a father of two young kids, and I know so many families here who have young kids. Yeah, they definitely want that, and if we can do that, that would be great for community. But it should be only for resident of Beverly Hills. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Yeah, so we're an aging community. Beverly Hills is an aging community, and we really need to do whatever we can to encourage young families to come in, because a lot of new families that are even coming to Beverly Hills that could afford it are choosing to send their kids to private school. So preschool is the gateway. It is the way to encourage young children to come to our school system so that we could start to encourage that and foster those types of relationships. And it's imperative that kids go to preschool. You know, it's very important. So I think that we can consider charging for certain families that could afford it, and then maybe have scholarships available for families that may need the additional support and help.
Thank you.
You already answered.
So thank you all so much for everything that you've said. This is all the time that we have for our City Council Candidate Forum. And thank you all so much for attending. And we would also like to thank Les and Miss Garrett for all of their help in the process. And good luck to all the candidates in the upcoming election. Please make sure to vote on June 7th and have a great night. Thank you.
You guys did a great job. Well done.